everything that I've learned in real estate is it's a team sport. With the multifamilies, you're teaming up with brokers, you're teaming up with lawyers, you're teaming up with, your local government, you're teaming up with everybody, and as much as you want to think it's just you, it's never just you. You're on a playing field of a lot of people.
You found the Real Estate Law Podcast, because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. If you're a real estate professional or looking to build real estate expertise, then welcome to the conversation and discover more at realestatelaw.podcast.com.
It's the Real Estate Law Podcast, and we are here with an amazing special guest who has a really cool story, Jon Sidoti. He's a real estate investor out of Quincy. What's up, Jon?
How's it going, Jason?
It's going great.
Rory?
We're going to introduce Rory Gale also. He's our resident real estate attorney, broker, lawyer, expert with Next Home Titletown Real Estate in Boston and Urban Village Legal. Hello,
Hey, Jason, it's good to be back recording another podcast.
Yes, I know we haven't recorded in quite some time, but we reached out to Jon on Bigger Pockets of all places, which is, as we all know, an amazing place to be connecting to folks. And Jon had an interesting story, at least it seemed that way. And in our time chatting before the podcast and just now, it got even more interesting. So, we're really eager to have Jon tell a story about, what he's up to in the form of out-of-state real estate investing, and things like building up his team and how he pivoted from a career in construction with some of the big players here in New England, and lots of other fun stuff there. So we're going to learn an awful lot from Jon today. So Jon, welcome to the Real Estate Law Podcast once again.
Jason, thank you. And Rory, thank you very much. Thanks for having me here. So
Jon, tell us a little bit more about yourself. We were just talking before we hit the record button, and we learned a little bit about, how you evolved into a career where you're doing some pretty big projects out of state. But why don't you take us back to, the start, like how you made that change from college into this?
So I originally, I have been in real estate investing since 2013. I started in college. I went to college for construction management, graduated from Wentworth with a degree in construction management. I got out of college. I bought my first multifamily property, which was a 2-family in Quincy, Mass. Great experience there. I bought it in 2013, wrote it up, sold it in 2017, and bought into a 12-unit in Panama City, Florida. And that was awesome. Big multifamily. It showed small cash flow, but over, the first year or so, you stabilize it and build the rents. And it showed significant upside with increasing rents. Unfortunately, within a month of owning the property, we were hit by Hurricane Michael. Hurricane Michael decimated the whole area, and we basically had to go through a major renovation. Luckily, with just graduating college in construction management, I was able to kind of facilitate the work that had to be done, knowing, which contractors and which stage had to be at the property, and being able to do it remotely using our property manager down there. Everything worked out great. The lender required us to use a property manager that we were unable to even get a hold of after the hurricane. So we ended up using the original property manager that I wanted to use, that kind of helped us acquire the property. So that ended up working out well.
Let me just jump in and ask a quick question. And Rory has a question too, but that's an amazing story because a month after you buy a property, it gets decimated. Is that what we heard?
Yeah.
Rory, what would you do in that situation?
I don't know. I mean, it struck me that John's comment was everything worked out great. So this is your first investment. It's a big, enormous investment. And a month into it, you almost have the worst case scenario happen where a hurricane comes through, devastates the property. It puts contractors in short supply throughout the area. Meanwhile, you're managing this from out of state with an unresponsive property manager. But yet the quote I have written down is everything worked out great. That must have something to do with how you approach the problem. Even just mentally, that would have been kind of a difficult, nerve-wracking project, a situation to have on your first major investment. How did you handle it, or what advice would you have for people that are facing kind of a similar problem so that they can hopefully come onto a podcast someday and say everything worked out great?
So, in addition to that, I was on my honeymoon with my wife that I had just married when I got a Facebook message from a contact that the property manager that we weren't able to use because of the lender. But he reached out to me. He asked what's going on with the property. The whole city is decimated down here. But basically what I always did was the more contacts you have in an area, the better you're going to be. And basically, while we were doing our due diligence on the property, before we even submitted an LOI, I did research on property managers in the area. It's just something I have always done. And that's important because if you're going to be out of state investing, you need boots on the ground. You need people to go by and, make check on the property every once in a while. You need, because you're not going to be there. Granted, the world isn't that big anymore. The world is very small. Florida is a plane ride away. What's that? 4 hours?
Mm-hmm.
New Hampshire's a drive away, 2 hours. Connecticut, 2 hours. Nothing's that far away anymore. So, I mean, that's my thought process. And I'm not a big fan of investing up here in the Northeast, but that's a different discussion. So the world's not that big. You can hop on a plane, go check your property out. You get all these tax incentives for traveling to go see it. There's lots of help in the property world. So, but the pivoting, with the hurricane mindset, nothing is that difficult. There are contractors. You're not going to do the work yourself. So,
the experience you got at Wentworth and what you studied kind of put you on this path toward getting your first multifamily in Quincy and then investigating out of state, large development investments such as this. And I asked that question because, many college graduates that don't graduate with real estate degrees or degrees related to business, finance, what have you, I think this is so off their radar with the first 10 years of your work life. Because if you graduated in 2012, right?
Yeah.
So, you're under 10 years after college. And I just think back to me 10 years after college and I had a great job, but this was nowhere near what I thought was available to do. Tell us about that. Did that kind of put you on this path, help you out?
So the construction management degree, I've always, as long as there are contractors, as long as there are people available, it's just a call away. You can get anything done. You just have to know how to manage people and work with people. So I do feel that the construction management degree definitely helped me or helped us because it's not me. It's all of us, and you work as a team. It's all about building teams. Teams kind of make everything happen. So, and especially when you get into the multifamily world, it's a team sport. No matter how you look at it, it's never just one person. And I've learned this in these Grant Cardone masterminds, and on Bigger Pockets. And everything that I've learned in real estate is it's a team sport. With the multifamilies, you're teaming up with brokers, you're teaming up with lawyers, you're teaming up with your local government, you're teaming up with everybody, and as much as you want to think it's just you, it's never just you. You're on a playing field of a lot of people, and you're teaming up with attorneys to push your closing through the finish line, and signing all the contracts needed to keep everything rolling. So everything to me is a team sport in real estate. So did that answer the question?
Yeah. I don't know what you think, Rory, but I think a lot of people that listen to this or listen to other podcasts that are starting out are saying, how do I start my team? Right?
Yeah.
And you're already saying how important that team is and that you're good at team building.
I like to think I'm good at team building, but basically my team starts with, you start with the broker, you start with, and simultaneously you want to find a property manager, you want to, be talking to everybody, talking to boots on the ground, talking to other people, and just kind of networking to find the property and, bring it to a finish line. I think that's where we start on it.
So let me ask you this, because the other headline I have from you is just, it's everything is a team sport. Did you put together your team in Panama City first and then find the investment, or did you find the investment first and then build a team around the investment?
So Panama City we found a property, and then we kind of targeted investors.
Okay.
Or we not investors, we targeted the manager, we targeted in that area. So that was kind of the property, and then the team.
How many trips do you think you've done down there, like since you purchased it, which also includes, post-hurricane, figure out what we're going to do?
2 trips. We made 1 trip to inspect the property, and then I made 1 trip post-hurricane just to kind of see how bad it was hit. Mm-hmm. And that was 6 months after, and the city was still decimated. We did end up going through 3 contractors before we actually got someone on there to get it done. But
have you been back since?
No.
No, not at all.
I mean, our property manager kind of handled everything. The property is, we have pictures. We've done Zoom walks or FaceTime walks, and it came out great. So, and it's rented, fully occupied.
The lesson here is that you don't need to be going down to an out-of-state market consistently, even after a hurricane, if you have a good team on the ground to manage everything, and probably good communication, I'd imagine.
Yeah, communication is key with anything. But yeah, that it works great, and we get a check every month, and it's all good. So
tell us about the before and after, though. You were mentioning that before we started recording, that you've been able to increase rents as a result of basically rebuilding the property.
So pre-hurricane, rents were between $700 and $900 a month. Now they're north of $1,200 to $1,400 property got a full rehab. It's the windows got blown out. Inside the interiors got damaged. It was pretty bad. And I went down there 6 months after. It was there was some crazy damage throughout the whole city, but the rehab allowed us to increase rents, get those new tenants. We were actually able to sign on with the military and the Air Force and the Navy base in Panama City, Tyndall Air Force Base and the Panama City Navy base, to actually get the military personnel in the property, which allowed, got us good rents. It worked out great. And as you know, with commercial property, which is 5 or more units, goes on a valuation where the income determines the value of the property. The income and the cap rate determines the value of the property. So increasing the rents increase the value of the property, which is great. That's what property owners like to hear.
Right.
That's a key difference. It's just kind of strikes you that you're jumping right into kind of these larger projects that are clearly commercial projects, 5 units or above. And yeah, for valuation, that's a key difference. The smaller properties often get the comp analysis, and there's not as much you can do to increase your own valuation. But here, if you can go ahead and research the building and actually go out and prove that the building's more valuable by finding more high-paying tenants, you can actually increase your own value. Was that what kind of drew your interest to the larger properties, or was it something else that got your interest in the big investments?
So the big investments, the 2, 3, and 4 unit properties are great, but when you get into the bigger investments, if you lose one tenant, you lose less percentage of your rental. Mm-hmm. If you have one tenant stop paying, you lose less percentage of your rental. That's one thing that I like. It's all a numbers game with the bigger properties. And then also the valuation where, you increase rents, it increases the value of the property. That's great. That's kind of what draws me to these bigger commercial properties. So
could you take us through, like, when you were researching the property, and you had to put money down for the property, but you did allude to commercial lending and how property values are calculated, and it's based off, the rent rolls. So how much did you guys have to bring? Like, did you have a team of people that all, put the down payment together? Did you use like your previous experience with your multifamily in Quincy, or at least some money from that toward your contribution? I ask this just because I think a lot of people that are listening are probably saying, geez, this sounds like something that I might want to do, but what do I have to bring, $1 million to the property, or do I have to bring 10,000 or some number in between?
Yeah. So it was $1 million property. You put down, typically you can get loans as high as 80% loan to value, or using the appraised number as the value. And then with the big commercial properties, the property holds the debt, right? So it's not really looking at your specific, credit scores, stuff like that on the bigger properties. So, the property secures the debt, right? So basically what the returns that the bank calculates secures the debt that you're going to be able to get on that property. We went 80% loan to value on that. So we had to kick up about $200,000, and then you buy in there. Depending on, like, if you're going into a syndication, if you're going into, something of that matter, the buy-ins will be so much of that down payment, and then you'll get distributions based on that. And I mean, everyone does syndications differently. They have waterfalls, they have, all sorts of stuff, which I'm finding out now. But we, kicked up a good chunk of money, 20%, and then we're just kind of going from there. So,
Rory, you've worked with a lot of investors. How does that align with some other investment groups that you've worked with?
In terms of the way that different projects get syndicated, there are a lot of different creative ways to do it. We see in the waterfall method you alluded to, that's kind of the one that I've seen a lot around here. But my focus has always been kind of in New England, which is why I kind of like to always ask, how everything works outside of it. But we've seen, simple structures among family members who are going in a project together to kind of more advanced waterfall arrangements where you have, multiple unrelated people working in the investment together. And by that, I mean, they're just different tiers of payout. So if the property does poorly, the brunt of that's going to be borne by the investors. If it, hits its goals, and it's kind of an even split. And then if it far exceeds its goals, and those who are actively managing it get a larger cut. But you made one little comment earlier on when you're talking about these markets, and you said you don't typically like to invest in the Northeast. But my question is not what's wrong with the Northeast, but what are you looking for in markets that makes it a place a good opportunity?
So I look for more landlord friendly laws, which a lot of laws up in the Northeast put the laws are more tenant friendly. So I'm more drawn to the states that are more landlord friendly. But I mean, if it's a good property, if it's a good asset and it, pays out, then go after it,
What are your thoughts on, the fact that a hurricane destroyed the property? And, there's no secret that we seem like we're getting a lot more of these extreme events on a regular basis. You're planning on continuing to invest in, these hurricane, these hurricane zones, or you must have good insurance or good risk tolerance?
So, no matter where you invest, you're going to have your disasters, right? You have earthquakes out west.
Fires out west.
You even have earthquakes. There was an earthquake in New York this year, in the past year. So you're gonna have earthquakes no matter where you go. You're gonna have hurricanes in certain states. You're gonna have tornadoes in states. You're gonna flooding. Rainstorms. Winter up in the Northeast, we have winter. Blizzards and whatnot that create frost heaves in your roof. You have disasters no matter where you go. The key is, how are you going to deal with it when there is a disaster? And the thing about insurance is insurance takes a while. So I don't know. You have some reserves, or where to go to get the money. If you do get hit with a hurricane or with a disaster, that's kind of the key. Because the Panama City after the hurricane, it took two to 3 years before we started getting checks from insurance. So having that investor backing, they really kind of stepped up, and we were very fortunate in that sense.
But then you had 2 to 3 years of not collecting rent.
I mean, we're
Part of the
going
calculation.
great now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We stayed about 50% occupied through it all.
Okay.
So it kind of held the note, and at least it didn't, put us under.
Yeah.
Right?
But I see a lesson in there. If don't spread yourself too thin where you don't have any reserves or any risk tolerance. Because if you weren't able to get through that period, you would never have come out on the other side with even better investment than you have right now. So if you didn't have the liquidity, if you didn't have kind of the confidence going forward, you could have abandoned what turned out to be a really, really solid investment.
Exactly.
Speaking of hurricane-prone areas, you also are looking at, or you're in Louisiana also for a different kind of investment.
Yeah. So we actually just purchased. I see a lot nowadays with contractors need contractor bays. Contractor bays. Trucking needs places to work on their vehicles, and you have all these people leaving their 9 to 5 jobs, their W-2 jobs, starting, contractor companies, and they're all looking for these contractor bays. Contractor bays right now are at an all-time shortage, So we actually just purchased in Northwest Louisiana a 15,000 square foot facility with multiple tenants, and where it's like it was 70% occupied and it was cash flowing, 24% year over year, cash on cash return on investment, which is unbelievable.
I mean, that's fascinating. I don't know how many times I hear from people that are just freaking out over the areas of weakness in commercial real estate, because a lot of office space downtown a lot of those places, even suburban office parks, have taken a hit kind of in the COVID era, in the work from home era. So the headlines sort of read that commercial real estate it's suffering, but you're finding areas in commercial real estate that are actually in short supply, where the trends are actually going the other direction, and that makes a really solid investment opportunities.
Absolutely.
How did you locate this deal?
This was on one of your multiple listing sources, and it had been on for a significant amount of time. And I reached out to the broker and, got in there. So, but I mean, with anything in real estate, your contacts, your network is your net worth. So the more people you talk to, the more people the better you're gonna do. Networking with the brokers, networking with the property managers, networking with anyone that has contact down there. Because I mean, your brokers are gonna be the ones that find deals. They're gonna be putting the deals together. Your property managers are gonna know people that are selling, or people that may be interested in selling, and potentially you could get something off market. But
so with this deal, you mentioned Northwest Louisiana, which is like the Shreveport area. Is that around there?
exactly.
So did you know people that push you in that direction and said, hey, take a look at Northwest? No, you didn't. So
No.
you kind of started looking, you're looking for, friendly places for landlords. You were looking on MLS or LoopNet or somewhere that had, deals, and
Yep.
you were looking at deals, and you noticed this one was, had been on market for a while, which is actually a really good strategy, to take a look at places that aren't the first to hit the market. We're all looking to jump at the new stuff, but the stuff that's been sitting, it's been picked over. No one wanted it, but everything is for sale for a price. So, it's not a bad strategy to have a look at some of the properties that have just been sitting there for a little while and figure out what's the situation, why has it been sitting, And then, can you work through whatever that arrangement is to come to a deal? But you did all that, and then you started building your team in Louisiana. Is that that was your process?
So we looked at the property on the listing source, and then, you run the numbers, and the numbers showed a good return. So we were, let's make an offer, let's see where it goes. And we made the offer, we negotiated, and then we closed on it. The biggest thing is taking action. On that property specifically, we took action by making the offer. And then, then we found a property manager in the area and built the team around that. Luckily thankfully, the broker stayed on with us to actually manage the property for us.
Do you plan to add in these two markets now that you've built teams up?
I want to keep exploring other markets, so that I'm looking all over. But if the opportunity presents itself, I would definitely build in both markets.
I think there's there's two schools of thought. Like, one is, scale up in the markets where you've already built networks. And two is spread the risk across a number of markets in case, anyone, just like your property, if you lose one tenant, out of 12, however many it is, it's not that devastating, but 1 out of 2 could be tough. Yeah. So, there's two schools of thought there. Sounds like you're exploring the latter, but, if opportunities come up in the markets in which you're already operating, it would make sense to just tap into the network you already have.
Yeah. So, really, it's all about being flexible. The more flexible you are, the better you'll do, I think, at least, definitely be open to building where you already have a track record, but stay open and stay flexible to build somewhere else as well.
Jon, this is like a fascinating story. I think that you have a background that a lot of people either aspire to look at or they don't even know where to start to get toward this. So I want to throw it to Rory to see if he had any final questions before we get to our final wrap up. And then you could tell everyone how they can get a hold of you. But Rory, did you have anything else you wanted to ask for Jon? I know you're taking some copious notes.
I'm taking good notes, and I'm going to be taking a look at MLS to see contractor bays probably as soon as we hop off of this. But but no, I think I'm ready to move on to the final questions.
Excellent. So, Jon, we asked 3 questions of everybody who comes in the podcast that are not necessarily related to real estate. We thought it'd be a fun way just to wrap up the discussion. The first one is, if you had to speak on any one subject for about 30 minutes with zero preparation, like just get up on stage and start blabbing what you know, what would that subject be?
I would probably talk about fishing. I really enjoy all kinds of fishing, but most recently it's been tuna fishing. I've been catching, some giant bluefin tuna, which are a lot of fun. It's a big feat. I know a lot of people travel all over the world to catch tuna.
I saw one of your catches on your Instagram account in preparation for this. I couldn't tell where it was taken. It was off. There was like a big breakwater in the background of the picture, I think. Was that here in the Northeast?
That was actually in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Yep. We caught that fish out in the bay, and big fish, lots of good food. You get sushi. Good sushi.
Do you sell it do people want to buy it, or do you just have it cleaned up at the dock?
We just do it for recreation. I know a lot of people will sell it commercially. Maybe next year we'll get a commercial permit and we'll fish for.
Maybe you could tie some fishing charters with some of your investment locations. I don't know about Shreveport, but Panama City, I'm sure they have some.
So that is kind of my inspiration to invest nationally. Eventually I'll own buildings all up and down the East Coast, in the Gulf, along the Gulf, and I'll be able to fish everywhere.
So that's the true inspiration behind all this. It's fishing. That's great.
Yeah.
So second question is, tell us something that happened early on in your life or career that impacts the way that you work today.
So I've always been a very hard worker. I've always been, kind of a up early, up late, looking whatever to better myself, reading, doing, online training seminars, stuff like that. I was in a car accident real quick. I had to go through, rehab. I was in a coma, and that kind of, it's really kind of pushed me, and I've just after a life-changing experience like that, you just it motivates you. It kind of makes you work a little harder for everything you got going on.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, value every moment.
Yeah, exactly. Life is short.
Yeah,
make the most of it.
Yeah, and have fun along the way, right?
Exactly.
Our final question is, what are you watching or reading or listening to these days? Doesn't have to be real estate. Doesn't have to be some real estate book. It could be something really interesting and fun.
So I've actually gotten involved in the 10X movement with Grant Cardone. I've been reading a lot of his books, watching a lot of his online trainings, and it's very educational, very motivating. It's amazing to see what he's done and kind of where you can take this whole real estate investing.
Is that helping you in modeling out your next couple of years?
Yes. Yeah. So I would like, my 1 year goal is to kind of get involved in 100 units. My 2 year is 1,000 units.
Wow.
My 10 year is 10,000. So.
Well, that's the 10X, right? If I do
10X.
the math correctly, right?
That's right. I don't know, but he also says go big or go bigger. So we actually we submitted on 300 units a couple weeks ago, which was an incredible learning experience. So, but yeah.
That sounds like another episode. Once you land one of those big deals, we'll have to have you back and you could tell us all about that process.
Yes.
We'll hold you to that math.
Yes.
Jon, if people want to reach out to you, what should they do? Do what I did, like Bigger Pockets, or what do you think?
I'm on Bigger Pockets, Jon Sidoti. I'm on Instagram.
Yep.
Johnny Mac 5890. No H. But Bigger Pocket, Instagram.
We have a lot of connections on there too, so we'll put links to all this in the show notes.
Awesome. I would love to hear from anyone.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sure that people are going to take you up on that. So, we appreciate your being here on the Real Estate Law Podcast. So that's been a wrap. This has been a really interesting episode, and we'll look forward to hearing how your story evolves with the 10X movement, your properties, and all these different locations. And I think next time we talk, you'll probably have fishing charters up and down the East Coast as well.
So, funny thing, my buddy Billy actually charters our boat out of Plymouth, 7 Stripes. So
if anyone wants a fishing charter, your buddy Billy, 7 Stripes. I'll go look that up also, and maybe we'll toss that link in there if I could find the website.
He gets you on the fish. So
all right, Rory and I, we were just talking about fishing yesterday, actually, right?
The one time we've gone in the last 5 years, I caught the biggest fish, but that's just a nice little accident.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
charter out of where was it in New York? It was like
Out of City Island in the Bronx.
City Island,
Okay.
yeah. And of course, nobody was catching anything. And of course, he got the biggest striper, blood everywhere. But
Nice.
he won the pool.
I did. So
You could bring Rory out on the fishing charter out of Plymouth, and we'll see. He might have the magic touch, and you can get an even bigger bluefin.
no.
Right?
All right. Now I can in Cape Cod Bay I can catch all the dogfish you want, which is probably none, but that's what I can catch.
Yeah.
All right.
John, thanks again for appearing on the episode. Rory, thank you once again for being our resident expert. Where can people find you, Rory?
Just Google my name, but I'm Next Home Title Town and Urban Village Legal. You can find me both businesses pretty easily.
Excellent. We'll link that up in the show notes as well. My name is Jason Muth. We really appreciate you listening to this episode of the Real Estate Law Podcast. And if you liked it, please give us a review or give us a thumbs up or a comment wherever you happen to listen to this podcast. We appreciate all of that, and we read them all. So thanks once again. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jason.
See you next time.
This has been the Real Estate Law Podcast. Because real estate is more than just pretty pictures, and law goes well beyond the paperwork and courtroom arguments. We're powered by Next Home Title Town, Greater Boston's progressive real estate brokerage. More at nexthometitletown.com. And Urban Village Legal, Massachusetts Real Estate Council, serving savvy property owners, lenders, and investors. More at urbanvillagelegal.com. Today's conversation was not legal advice, but we hope you found it entertaining and informative. Discover more at realestatelawpodcast.com. Thank you for listening.